Hello, everyone, and welcome again to Conscious Awakening. I'm your host, Sheila Seppi, and I am so excited today to have one of my dear friends, Andrea Perron. Now, most of you may know Andrea as the author of House of Darkness, House of Light, but Andrea is so much more. Andrea, she is one of the most amazing people, one of the biggest hearted people, one of the smartest women that I know. And when I decided that I was going to do this series on the walking the path of the wise woman, I had to get a hold of Andrea because, Andrea, I'm going to let you tell a little bit more about yourself, but I really want to focus on Andrea, the hot mama today.
Bless your heart. I have a long history of being a practitioner of all things metaphysical, and I came by it quite naturally rather than supernaturally. It was not something that I was asking for or looking for. It just happened, and in the process, it altered my trajectory in life. I found out, relatively early at the age of 12, that I could interact with spirit. Had I, to my recollection, had not encountered spirit prior to that age. It doesn't mean that I hadn't. It just means that if I did, I didn't know what I was seeing or passed it off as a dream or whatever. But when we moved to the farmhouse when I was 12 years old, within 5 minutes of arrival, I saw a full body apparition that looked just like flesh and blood to me. And a couple of minutes later, the same apparition that three of my other sisters saw disappeared right in front of the eyes of my sister Nancy. And that was our introduction to the supernatural world when we moved to the farm. But I really do think, and I will always believe, that it was my introduction in that way that opened my third eye to all else, to what is universal, to coming to the conclusion at a very young age that we don't live in a three-dimensional, five-sensory realm, that we actually live in a multi-dimensional universe, and that some of us have the ability to connect with it in a very profound way. I had, ever since I have a thing with animals. Like, it's ridiculous how I have a thing with animals. I can understand them, their needs, their desires, their wants, their language. I can read light language. I can read crop circles. I can read just anything in nature that speaks to me. Nature speaks to me.
Right.
I think nature speaks to everyone, but not everyone is listening.
True.
And that really is the crux of the matter. When you come to the immediate realization that something has happened in your life that has created a personal paradigm shift, nothing's ever going to be the same on the other side of it. You can't unlearn, unthink, unsee, unhear, unknow what you've just encountered. And it does change the way that you think about everything, that, in my opinion, because that was certainly the result with me. My personal response to what I saw was, wow, that's really interesting. I've never seen anything like that before. And I was a little kid. But I was always intellectually precocious, but I suddenly had a deeper, richer understanding of the world in which I live and the enormity of the universe. And I understood from a very young age that we who dwell on this planet know nothing compared with what there is to know. And so
Right.
began my journey, and so began my search. And I was a big fan at a very early age of Ralph Waldo Emerson. I started reading Emerson in depth when I was in the 6th or 7th grade. And his work is his writing is very sophisticated. But it's also, deeply metaphysical. He was considered one of the transcendentalists. But it set the foundation for me. He did. Henry David Thoreau, Walt Whitman, Nathaniel Hawthorne, those that published their works in the middle 1800s was what I was drawn to. That was the literature that seemed to speak to me in a unique way. And still, these books are still a part of my personal library. They are on the top of my roll top desk where I stare at them every day. And I can just look at Emerson's essays, my volume of Emerson's essays. And in a split second, I'm remembering something that I read 50 years ago from there that has a particular poignancy in the moment. And I don't know if that happens to other people, or if, they read a book and then, pretty much forget the contents and let it go, dwell somewhere in their subconscious. But these works have always remained at the forefront of my consciousness and are an active participant in the way that I think. Now, I will say, for those that don't know what else I do besides being an author, I have been what is known now today as a ufologist, somebody that studies UFOs, for decades longer than that word integrated into our vernacular. It is when I was 13, so we'd only been at the farm not quite a year. I had my first conscious contact with extraterrestrials. And it was a flotilla of vessels that passed directly over the farm. And that's what really blew my mind wide open. Sheila, you and I have talked about this privately on many occasions, especially driving back and forth from the Denver airport, as I recall, because that's a bit of a hike out to your neck of the woods. But it gave us time to really get in depth with this story and the experience that I had that so profoundly changed me. And it was interesting because a few years ago, I was at an event, just, another paranormal conference, of which there are many. And a woman walked up to me, and apparently she was very well known as a psychic medium in the Midwest. I had never met her before. And she walked up to me and she took my hand, and it was like a jolt of electricity passed through her. And she looked deeply into my eyes and she said, "You had an experience when you were 13 that permanently altered you, that traumatized you, but you didn't realize that that's what was happening. And for a long time, you blocked a lot of the details of it. And it resurfaced recently in your life that you would be willing to write about it and tell about it. Do you know what I'm referring to?" And I was like, "Oh, yeah, absolutely. Spot
But
on.
of course.
Spot on. Yeah, and it was that. It was seeing the main vessel, the mothership, for lack of a better phrase, was in the center and was surrounded by, I would say, probably at least 8 to 10 much smaller vessels. And they were transiting through the sky absolutely silently on both sides. So there were 2 round ones and there were 2 square ones. They were all in geometric forms. There were 2 pentagons. There were 2 that looked like, I don't know, triangles. And they were just at equidistant from both sides of the main vessel and went over so slowly that had it been something that we had created, it would have simply fallen out of the sky because of this little thing we call gravity. And it was below the clouds that were not there. A couple of moments before, the sky was completely blue. It was October. I had just turned 13, and it was absolutely silent. I didn't even hear bird song, nothing, which is indicative of being put in the bubble. You know, what I call being like, I was more connected to them than in those moments than I was to the earth. And then the next thing that I remember is standing in the kitchen and pulling the lace curtains back and looking up to see if they were still out there. And my mother asking me what I was looking at and me not having an answer for her. I didn't tell her for months, maybe even a year after it happened, that it actually happened, because, you know, the house was so busy with the other things that we were dealing with in the house and on the property, and the spirit activity was so intense at that time that it was almost like I just didn't want to burden her with one more thing to have to consider or think about, and at that time I did not know that my mother had been an experiencer of supernatural things, that she had seen or known of UFOs, that had been in conscious contact with her mother. I did not know that. And all the years that we lived together and spent endless hours talking about endless things, she had never shared that with me.
Wow.
And while I was writing my last book, I gave her sections to read, and it prompted her memory about an interaction she had had with her mother when my mom, was 12 years old.
So you're a generational experiencer.
I think it's fair to say that, Sheila. I think that my father's a real weirdo. I'm sure he's not from this planet. I'm sure he's 87 years old with the body of a 50-year-old, with the, you know, his mind is as sharp as a tack. My mother is 83. And even though she is physically infirm now and having issues, her mind is she's just brilliant. She's an absolutely brilliant human being. And I'm here with her in Georgia right now for the holidays. And, you know, I don't need, this is my present. This is it.
Yes.
You know, just being able to be home and off the road and out of the public's eye for a little while. And I'm really no different in public than I am just, you know, being me. I don't know how to be anybody else but me. So I just be authentically me all the time, no matter who I offend or what I say, or, you know, people, I'm sure there are people that have heard some of my lectures and thought that poor woman is just off her rocker. And I am off my rocker. I will not be relegated to my rocker until I'm far older than I am.
Yeah. So now we're catching you in between filmings, right?
Yes, you are.
Work. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Not really. Oh my God.
No, I'm taking a break.
Cameras and oh my God. Yeah. No, I've in the age of COVID, of which we are still in, I almost laugh when people refer to it in the past tense. That's ridiculous. It's not going anywhere. I've had it 4 times. The last time I got it was in Scotland in July. I had just gotten over it a week before I left for Scotland, and then came back with the very prim, proper, and well-mannered UK version of the disease. So it didn't hurt me. I think I've just built up so many antibodies at this point that I'm, you know, virtually, if you can be immune, I am. During you know, starting in 2020, when the country and basically the world locked down, I thought, well, okay, I'm perfectly fine staying home endlessly. I was not one of those people that suffered that feeling of isolation or being. I'm a bit of a hermit anyway, and so I like being reclusive. I'm happiest when I can talk to my friends on, like, for instance, Zoom or StreamYard. I do my show. I have a show twice a week. I do Soul School Sojourn on Monday nights with my dear friend Jeff Turner. And then on Friday nights, I do a World Awakening with my dear friend and producer Tony Rathman and my friend Bill, who is the general manager of KGRA. And we all team up and pull the whole thing together. You've done the show, you've been on it. And it's just a really nice, comfy place in cyberspace for people to meet, gather, talk freely about, literally anything. But I also, in that amount of time, with every precaution taken, made 2 films and 3 documentaries over the course of about 3 years. And several of them are out or pending now. The feature film, I believe, will come out by the end of the year. And then the follow-up to it, I believe, will be out by the spring. So I've been working with, I have 10 producers that I work with, and they're all over the country and from all over the world. And the one that I'm making these 2 films with was born in London, grew up in Australia, moved back to London a few years ago, and then just relocated to Hollywood, California, because this is where all of everything's happening. And the film industry that was decimated through COVID is slowly but surely making its way back. And, we're finding our way onto streaming services and Netflix and, putting things out into the world in a way that people do consume information now,
Right.
Not only entertainment, but information. And me very well. There are very few people on this planet who know my soul, and you are one of them. And as I know yours, and we are both in this for exactly the same reason. And that is to impart the information that we are privy to and put it out into the world, both knowing that neither one of us is here for everyone. We have those that follow our work, that pay very close attention to what we do, because they feel that on some level we are trustworthy. We are telling them the truth. And the truth, it might piss you off at first, but it will eventually make you free. And it's hard. I just lectured a couple of weeks ago at the Star Work Symposium out in Laughlin, Nevada. And I opened my lecture with, I didn't ask for this. And I was serious as a heart attack. And it just came out of my mouth. I never prepare notes or a lecture, or you'll never see me with a teleprompter. I am a conduit. What comes down through and out of me, I'm sometimes not even consciously aware of until I have spoken the message.
Right.
So that's how I started it. And I said, none of you people accidentally staggered in here. Every single one of you came to this conference, to this symposium, with purpose and reason to hear something that would change your paradigm, would shift your paradigm. And then I proceeded to talk for an hour and a half about everything that's important to me in life. And frankly, I don't care who it freaks out. I don't care. I think I give people a lot of credit for innate intelligence, but I also understand the power of fear. And part of my job, my mission, is what Madame Marie Curie left us with as one of her most famous quotations. And I'll just paraphrase it. Now is the time to understand more so that we may fear less. There is nothing to fear except humanity. What's going on in Ukraine right now? How can this even be happening?
Right.
This invasion took place. One of the most profound messages that I ever received, ever. And I get messages all the time, downloads and all kinds of, I mean, they're just, I have no privacy. I'll see a flash while I'm in the bathroom trying to take a shower, and there's a flash of light in the shower with me. I'm like, what are you here to do? Make sure I don't fall down. You know what? I mean, I am completely, utterly surrounded by them all the time. I am their protectorate. I know that. And I'm so grateful for it. Although, I'd like to be able to take a shower alone. I don't think they care a whit about my naked body. They just want to make sure that I'm safe and sound in all environments all the time. And I know I'm followed. I am followed. And I've given them permission to come into my home, and they make themselves at home. There's only one prerequisite: do not scare my dog. Don't scare my dog. That's all that I ask. And the rest of it, have at it, do as you please, what you will. But on February 24th of this year, after a couple of months where I was just feeling incredibly anxious, and it's like my adrenaline was always bubbling right at the surface, and I had to make it through the holidays with my family, and fake it till I make it mode, where it's all cheerful and it's the holidays and it's this and that, and in the back of it I'm like, that son of a bitch is amassing hundreds of thousands of troops on the Ukrainian border of a peaceful country that did not provoke this in any way. And he's not going to throw his hands up in the air and say, I've changed my mind, we're going home. I knew it was coming. I knew that it was coming.
Mm-hmm. And you received a message, and I think I had interviewed you the very day after that for a book.
Oh my God, that's right.
Yes.
That's right. Do you remember what I told you? The message was, I was just sitting with a cup of coffee on the front garden terrace of my beautiful home in Winter Garden, Florida, overlooking Lake Apopka. And I'm just rocking in my chair and just rocking with my coffee and my cigarette. And I'm begging them, please, please, please intervene. I know what the rules are. But please, this one time, please intervene and stop this madness before it starts. Please stop this madness. And the tears are like puddling in my eyes. And all of a sudden, there was complete silence. And I heard a message that was spoken in perfect English, perfect. There was like no accent or synthesized sound to it at all, which sometimes I have heard. But this one, no. And it was almost like I could see the words written out in my mind's eye, right in front of my face. And the message was this: if we are here, this planet and its people are in crisis. We are here. And when I saw we are here, it was all caps, and that we included you and me and our whole circle of people who are on this earth to enlighten our fellow human beings, even if we don't qualify as fully human beings, and we can talk about hybrids if you want. We can talk about anything that you want. But I just knew in that moment that our clan, our tribe, our group of people who are in this world, but not of this world, that we had to come together and illuminate society and lift each other up out of this incredible darkness and pain and suffering that we were seeing that was happening on the other side of the world, not just our own issues, of which there are aplenty, but to know that after the end of World War II, when everyone collectively said, never again, those words had, with the launching of a single missile, become obsolete. And I was so disheartened and felt so helpless to navigate this emotionally, and so helpless to affect any positive change around this, that I went into a deep despair that akin to the first few months of COVID, when all I could do, and I mean, Shayla, you've known me a long time. I have been lecturing about the forthcoming paradigm shift for at least minimum a decade, right. And probably longer than that, at least maybe a dozen years. And I should have been the most prepared person on the planet when it actually hit. And I wasn't. I was leveled by it. And all I did was sleep and cry and eat ice cream and watch the news for months. That's all that I did. I just went from one news channel to the next to see, what was going on. And nobody had any idea of if there would ever be a vaccine, and people were dropping like flies all over. And it leveled the playing field of humanity, of course, because there was zero immunity on the planet. And then I started dealing with the anger of, where did this come from? Where did this come from? Knowing that this was, this did not surface in a wet market in Wuhan province, China. I know that. I don't know the whole backstory. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I do believe that this was an escapee virus that was being manipulated and experimented with in a lab. And that's why it is a novel coronavirus. No one had any exposure to it. It had been tweaked from another kind of coronavirus into what it is now, and continues to morph and morph and morph. And so, I was angry about that and feeling helpless and hopeless. And I went through a dark period of time, knowing, as we've discussed many times, that I am at heart and soul a spiritual warrior for peace on earth. They are not counterintuitive subjects, and that there are things worth fighting for in this world, in this 3D realm, but that ultimately we must figure out a way to save ourselves from ourselves, because we are the pestilence on the planet. We are the only creature on the planet that fouls its own nest, that shows no regard for the planet as a living, breathing being that sustains all life. It is just, unfortunately, in the minds of many, a place just to be used, abused, spent, used up. We'll figure out another way when that's gone, and there's a kind of a intolerable ignorance to that mindset that drives me out of my mind and makes me routinely feel that I don't belong here, but I do belong here. Right. And I belong here so that I can have conversations with thoroughly awakened, enlightened people like yourself, and those that will tune into this and, tap in and tune in and turn on to this profound message, that we are not alone in the universe, that we are profoundly loved, that our relationship with the galactic family is permanent and ancient. You remember when they cracked the human genome, I guess like 15, 20 years ago?
Right.
And they attributed all of our personal characteristics to approximately 20% of the human genome. And then since they couldn't figure out what the rest of it was, kind of tossed it to the side and called it junk DNA.
Right.
They're revisiting that in the scientific community now,
Yes.
realizing what we've known all along. That's our entire galactic history
Right.
that we carried with us into this vessel on this plane of action at this time, so that we could actually affect positive change in this world, which is worth saving.
Yes, absolutely. You know, when the pandemic hit, one of the first things that happened, of course, is the, oh my gosh, kind of feeling. But then I started having this unexplainable joy and peace starting to rise up. And I heard within myself, it has begun.
Yeah.
And I truly believe that we have crossed over into that new paradigm that we've all spoken about for so long.
Yes.
That we are creating this new world that we're living in, and that it takes all of us consciously to create the world that we want. I know I work a lot with the collective consciousness of the planet.
Yes.
And it's in chaos. It is in chaos. It seems to be more fear, more worry, more concern. And on the other hand, there's joy, there's peace, and there's realization that we are eternal beings that never die. We are in this human vessel right now having this experience. And when we leave this planet, we can add earthling to our repertoire of lifetimes. And so there's so much that's going on, but there's also so much beauty that has arisen out of this chaos, where families who haven't spoken in years have connected, where wounds are beginning to heal, and where people, their families are getting stronger, and people are dropping within themselves to discover that they are more than they have been told. And the story that we have about our galactic and universal history is vast. And it's just starting to really rise to the top. And I believe as people like us are out there talking, very grounded, very intelligent people that say, well, I don't even take photos anymore because I've got so many photos of ships, of beings.
I just don't even do it anymore. It's like, oh, hello, good morning. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's becoming such commonplace. And also with that galactic family is also our spiritual families, our ancestors, our guides, our angels. They're all here supporting and cheering for us to make it through this time. But, as we continue to rise to the peak, so does the chaos. And we have, we're fighting just to stay one step ahead. And I tell people, this kind of behavior has been on planet Earth forever. This is nothing new.
No, we just know more about it now because we live in an age of global communication. And in my opinion, ignorance is a choice. It is, because all the information is out there. If you choose to put a blind eye to it and just like, no, I don't, that's a choice. And, if that's what somebody wants to do, that's fine, but at least admit that it's a choice. I don't want to hear, oh, I didn't know. A case in point, I'm an activist. I have always been an activist. I'm an animal rights activist, as well as a civil rights, human rights, women's rights, children's rights. I have been rooted in the realization of oneness my whole life. We are all one race. We are all one family, all living things on this planet, and the planet itself. We are all bound to each other. And I think that human beings have started to drift away from one of the most important attributes that we possess, and that's empathy. I think that our superpower is love. And when we tap into that and understand that we are the difference. We are making the difference that we wish to see in the world. We are the ones we've been waiting for,
Right.
essentially. With that realization and that coming together, we are altering the trajectory and the spiritual evolution of humanity in the process. And even though it's immeasurable, it's incalculable, thoughts are things.
Absolutely.
And when we take our centered thoughts and envision the kind of world that we want to live in, when we come to terms of endearment with the planet and the universe, and with each other, I think that will be the fulcrum. That will be the point where the shift finally is complete, and it's underway. You know it, I know it, it is underway. And so what we're trying to do now is counterbalance, to find some balance in a world that is in utter chaos, that is askew, that is very complicated and convoluted, and has, that perpetual conflict between good and evil, which, as you stated accurately, has always existed in this realm.
Right.
But also, I truly believe that good conquers evil and love conquers fear. And the opposite of love is fear. It's not hate.
Right.
Hatred is born of fear. It's its offspring. And it's a loud member of their little family. It really is where we're seeing so much divisiveness, so much, if you're not exactly like me, then you're the scum of the earth, that mindset, which is very base, which is very low vibration. There's one religion on the planet, and I won't even say the name of it, you'll probably know, but they have approximately, now there's how many billions of us on the planet? We just, a couple of weeks ago, we ticked up to another billion. I think we're 9 billion now. There's 500,000 of them roughly on the entire planet. And what they teach and preach and indoctrinate their youth with is the concept that everyone around them that is not a member of their church are somehow lowly and unworthy of salvation, and that they will be, these 500,000 or so people will be the only ones that are saved in the reckoning, in the second coming, and whatever they refer to it to, that they're the chosen ones, and they are the only ones that will survive and not burn in eternal damnation in hell for the sins that they've perpetrated on the planet. And I guarantee you, every member of that church has sinned sometime in their life. And yet they're the ones that are absolved, and the rest of us are not. I look at it, in a general overview, and I can because, I well earned a degree in philosophy. And in order to achieve that, you have to study every single major world religion and the mindset that's its foundation, what's fundamental to it, and including fundamentalism in Christianity, fundamentalism in the Hindu world and the Islamic world, and so on and so forth. So it's a deep dive. I spent 4 years immersed in philosophy and consequently in religion. And the one thing that I discovered out of those 4 years, and the one thing that I got besides the degree, was an innate understanding that there is one principle that exists in every single major literary work that has anything to do with faith and religion. And that is some iteration of the golden rule. My version of it is do unto others as though you are the others, because you are the others.
Right.
That's my favorite version of it. And it gives me a chance to raise my voice to an audience that might be falling asleep and needs a wake-up call. It's, to me, Sheila, it's so simple.
Yeah.
It's so simple. We can heal the world of its woes so simply by just extending kindness to all living souls. And that's one of them right here. That's Peanut Buttercup.
Right.
Peanut, mommy's doing a show. Would you like to? Okay, that's okay. It's my sister. Wave. That's my sister. Another spiritual warrior, a kick-ass, badass woman. Thank you for the warning, Peanut. And there's my kick-ass, badass dog. Come here, baby. It's is it a gift for me? It should be if it's not.
No.
I'm just asking.
Yours are already here. I don't know.
Oh my God. Mine are already here. And yet I have hardly begun to look. Peanut, come over here and be a good girl for mommy. Come here. Hold on.
Finish up. I'll
Okay.
get going.
Okay. And this is my savior, my personal savior. Her name is the Princess Peanut Buttercup. She is the best dog on the entire planet Earth. There are none better. She's the most intelligent, most beautiful, most politically adept, most tuned in and turned on doggy on the planet. And I've always had dogs that averaged 85 to 130 pounds my whole life. Big dogs. I am a big dog person. And after my my dog, Gracie Pearl, passed away in 2017, 130-pound lap dog, Great Pyrenees, I was so devastated. I said, no more. I won't go through that pain again. I won't. It's like losing a child as far as I am concerned. It hurts. I can't imagine anything that hurts worse than that. And of course, I didn't have children, so I don't know. I'm sure your perspective is different, being a mother, and a very good one at that. But for me, it's the most pain that I can suffer is losing a loved one or losing one of my adored pets. And after about 3 years, the universe said, enough. I'm dropping a Chihuahua in your lap. Catch her. And I did. And I saved her. And she saved me right back because I found her and rescued her 2 weeks before the World Health Organization declared a global pandemic. And I was like, I have somebody to take care of and nurture and a reason to get up every morning and function. And what would, her favorite words are, of course, as you wish. And I am her lady in waiting. And she's a service dog, except that I am in service to her. It's not the other way.
Right. I have one of those.
Yes. And she's my baby. Now, no more barking.
Yeah.
Now, what mommy's talking. Okay.
Yeah.
There you go. Go get Sammy.
Well, Andrea, this has been absolutely phenomenal. And I always love spending time with you. Before we close, I would like to ask, however, if you have any final comments that you would like to leave people with. And then I would love for you to share how people can get a hold of you, or at least your work.
Yes, I am. Well, first of all, it's very easy to get a hold of me. Just Google me. You can hear my Andrea Perron YouTube has 1,000 different things on it, lectures and interviews and so on. The fastest, best way to get in touch with me personally is through my administrator, Lynn Ann Bowling, also known as Linny, on my fan page, which is called Buttercup Brigade. And it's where the good deed doers that wear rose-colored glasses gather in cyberspace. And that's she can put you, Lynn Bowling or Erin Bush can put you directly in touch with me faster than anything, because I have thousands of unanswered messages in Gmail and Facebook that I simply cannot. I literally don't have the time to answer. And it's not that I don't want to be in direct contact with my readers and my public followers.
Right.
I'm just one person, and caring for my mother as much as I do during the holidays really precludes me from spending too much time doing that. But that's the fastest way to get in touch with me, is through Buttercup Brigade on Facebook. And you can also follow my main page, Andrea Perron. But yes, I'm happy to talk with anybody anytime that I can fit that into my schedule. And I hate not being able to be spontaneous the way I used to be, that I have to schedule things is anathema to me. Because I am a very spontaneous person. Oh, let's go do this. Oh, it's how I am essentially, but I can't do that anymore. But yes, I'm so happy to do that. And the one message that I want to leave people with, I hope resonates. I hope that we're on the same frequency about this. I want to, in a time when it would be easy to be hopeless, dare to have hope. In a time when faith seems elusive, have faith anyway. And above all, seek every day to be the light you seek. And with that, we are and we will continue to create a brave new world. Be brave.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you so much. Okay, everybody, you can see why I had to have my spiritual sister here.
Yes.
For walking the path of the wise woman. I love you and wish you the best that life has to offer each and every day.
Ditto, check.
Thank you. And so I want to thank everyone who has tuned back in, whether you're watching us, whether you're listening to us over podcasting. Thank you so much for being here with us. You can always find us on the Conscious Awakening Network on the website at consciousawakeningnetwork.org. You can also download the phone apps in the iOS or the Android phone store. You can also find us in a variety of social media platforms. So we're out there. Just type in Conscious Awakening Network, and we hope to see you soon. So until we are back together again, namaste, everyone, and much love.
Namaste.
Have a beautiful and blessed day.